Hello and welcome to the newest episode of Ages of Sega. If you're watching these as these come out, I do apologize for the week and a half delay that you will experience in this. I was kind of caught at the end of some moving and basically just kind of that took priority, but we will be getting back to the schedule of every 2 weeks. So again, thanks for holding on and just hanging with me on that. And unfortunately, for the return of Ages of Sega after the delay, we're going to be looking at what is quite possibly the worst game that I've played for the system, and quite possibly one of the worst games I've played, just period. Today we're going to be looking at SEGA Flipper. Now, pinball games back then, they were definitely very rudimentary. You did see some things that were much better, like Atari's Video Pinball that was in the arcades. Honestly, just some brilliant physics involved in that, but it was definitely in the infancy. I think the physics of the pinball can be a little difficult at the very beginning, and this game definitely suffered from that, and I think, just looking at it, just really suffered from being rushed out. There's not a lot of information on who programmed this, and a lot of times back then, game developers weren't really given the credit for the game, especially in Japan. You did see some movements in America with like Electronic Arts and Activision where the people really wanted their names out there. You know, you always hear of Pitfall as David Crane's Pitfall. But in Japan, you really didn't have that till after the fact. And I think with the kind of situation of Sega Flipper, nobody really came out to claim it. For the cheesy review line, Sega Flipper is not a game you'll flip out about. Granted, I'm just not a pinball guy, period. I'm going to put that out there at the beginning. Sonic Spinball is actually one of my favorite pinball games, which if you're a person who really listens to like the Top Cast and This Old Pinball videos, you're going to laugh at that because it's not a very good pinball game. But honestly, that and the Alien Crush, Devil Crush games, those are the ones that I like. So I may not be the best person to go over this, but I think the flaws in this really transcend liking and not liking the game. Honestly, it really comes into delayed controls being the biggest thing. There's like a half-second delay, at least it feels like a half-second delay, whenever you hit that until the flippers start flipping. This causes you to basically, to play the game, you're just hitting both flippers over and over, just hoping that you hit it whenever the ball comes down. It's almost impossible to really use the delay time. Second, the physics are just absurd, and not like in a fun way, like Goat Simulator or something like that. No, this is just really horrendous physics. I mean, just look at how the ball, whenever you actually hold it between the flipper and the ramp, just how it just jumps back and forth. It is awful. Now, in Sega's credit, this game did arrive before a lot of the early attempts, such as Nintendo's pinball and Jaleco's attempt at pinball. One could use this as an excuse, but then the gameplay is worse than the Atari 2600 version of Video Pinball, which really didn't have that good of physics anyways, and the physics are just blown away by the arcade version of Atari Pinball. But I'm going to give that to the benefit of Sega in that they didn't have arcade architecture on here. And Video Pinball was honestly just kind of amazing on how well it worked. But honestly, getting beaten by the 2600 version is not a very good thing. The SG-1000 came quite a bit afterwards, and it was far superior than a 2600. It should not have had that issue. Due to the delayed controls, as I mentioned earlier, I found the best way to play this is to constantly hit both flippers. But at that point, you're just not playing pinball. You're really just launching the ball and just seeing how long you can keep it up. And in this case, the playfield is not that interesting. It's not a very good pinball table even, so just watching the ball go around isn't fun either. The bottom line is, if you like pinball, stick to the actual machines. Go to your laundromat, they're usually still there, and just play some pinball. And if you don't like pinball, definitely stay away from this because it's really just not that good. It is one of the worst games that really had the Sega name on it. So just stay away from it. It's not that great. But hey, if you like this video, check back. We're going to be going through a lot more games and just bringing in a few different systems. I'm in the works of those now. But subscribe to Sega Nerds, check out our podcast, and also check back next week. We're going to be looking at a better game, Pop Flamer. Sega, for their home consoles, Monaco GP. And don't let that blank title screen fool you. This game's pretty good. And there's some little bit of charm to